Municipality of the County of Annapolis for the meeting of the Committee of the Whole. This beautiful Tuesday morning with the sunshine. We will start with roll call.
District 1, Carrie Ann Parsons Salzman.
District 2, Jesse Hare. District 3, Dustin Henslow.
District 4, Charles Cranston.
District 5, Ben Longman.
District 6, John Welch.
District 7 is Councillor Aguilar, and he's going to be absent today due to illness. Do we have a unanimous decision to accept him being absent?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. District 8,
Niall Harding, District 8.
District 9, Gidget Oxner.
District 10, Ryan O'Donnell.
District 11, Brian LeBlanc. Thank you. Welcome. Do we have any disclosure of interest for today? Seeing none, we're moving on. We are at the approval of the agenda, but we do have to amend the order of the day by adding to the information staff reports 5.12, SR 2026-36, Lake Pleasant Boat Launch Upgrades Operating Funding as 5.12. I said 5.12. We also have a second one, Councillor Oxner.
Thank you. I would like to include a discussion regarding sending a letter to the province voicing the concerns of the residents with the recent budget cuts that were announced.
Okay, so we will include the budget or the letter for discussion at under new business at 6.3. Okay, any others? Seeing none, we need a motion to accept the approval of the agenda as amended. And Councillor Carson Salzman, and the seconder is Councillor Longmire. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Okay, so we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes that we have. The first minutes of the committee of whole for February 10th. Is there any discussion or additions or errors that need to be looked at for those minutes? Seeing none, we next go to the next set of minutes, which are the minutes of the special committee of the whole that was held on February 19th. Are there any discussions, errors, omissions on these minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as circulated. We are now on page 10, which has to deal with road naming, and Madame Thomas will probably come up to the front and share some information on that. We have a recommendation. Can somebody put that on the floor? Councillor Welch.
I move Municipal Council approve the road name Cliffside Way for the shared access road in Deep Brook on PID 05321302.
Thank you very much. Seconder, Councillor Cranton. And we will have Madame Thomas say a few words about this.
Thank you. A development project is currently underway in Deep Brook. There are 2 out of the planned 6 single-unit residences currently approved for construction. These residential buildings will be situated parallel to a pre-existing Colonial Arms Drive, with a shared access route servicing all driveway entrances. Upon consultation with the Nova Scotia Civic Addressing File staff, a recommendation was made to name the branching connector for best clarity. This is in accordance with our policy 126 road naming and with provincial guidelines for the management of the civic address system, which states that private access lanes giving access to 3 or more homes must go through a road naming process to formally become a named road. The property developer was asked to provide a list of 3 suggestions for preferred names for this process. They provided Buxton, Lighthouse View, and Cliffside. All 3 names were then reviewed by staff for best fit. Cliffside was deemed the best fit. Road naming policy guidelines regarding personal names and near duplication were in conflict with other suggestions. Upon this determination, interest groups were contacted for perceived potential conflicts. These interest groups included local RCMP, fire departments, EMS, the neighboring jurisdiction of Digby County, and the Provincial Department of Public Works. No concerns were raised. It is then recommended that the county move forward with this formally naming this access route Cliffside Way.
Are there any questions or comments for Madame Thomas? Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Is through you, Gordon. Is it a one-way in and one-way out, or is it a wraparound in and out?
It's kind of an odd use case. It essentially is a parallel access to the main road with kind of a joining bar through the center. And so we were a little uncertain as how we want to address it, hence the consultation with the province. Essentially, there are a few ways it can be handled, especially in other jurisdictions where sometimes they're attached directly to the main access route, which in this case is Colonial Arms Drive. But because the turning onto a separate roadway is required to access the driveways, we were advised by our provincial team that for clarification.
Thanks for expanding on that. I only think because, you know, in times of fire and fire trucks and things like that, you wouldn't want to be in a situation where you're not.
Yes.
Thank you. So during a civic address correction process encouraged by the Nova Scotia Civic Addressing File team, the county identified a potential need to assign a civic at the site of focus. The landowner was contacted and presented they wished to pursue the assignment. This assignment then marks the third civic address serviced by a private driveway. And according to our policy 126 road naming, and in accordance with provincial guidelines, private driveways giving access to 3 or more homes must go through a road naming process to be not formally named private road. The owner of the property containing the driveway was asked to provide a list of 3 suggestions for preferred names for this process. They provided Trappers, Hunter's Retreat, and Medway Riverview. All 3 names were then reviewed by staff for best fit. No conflicts were found with the owner's first choice, Trappers. Upon this determination, interest groups were contacted for perceived potential conflicts. These interest groups included local RCMP, fire departments, EMS, the neighboring jurisdiction of Queens County, and the Provincial Department of Public Works. No concerns were raised. It is then recommended that the county move forward with formally naming this access route Trappers Lane.
Thank you, Madame. Are there any comments or questions about Trapper Lane? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Okay, we'll move on to page 14. This is the staff report. That's on from our Director of Finance, Mr. Will. We have a recommendation. We're going to read the recommendation. Councilor Parsons.
I move that municipal council approve policy 105, low income tax exemption as circulated, 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconded by Dr. Cranston. And we have double up. We have Cookman. Madam Hudson. Madam Hudson, are you?
Yes, okay, policy 105, low income tax. That also recommends and the income potential amount
questions or comments? Deputy Warden?
What is, and I'm off the top of my head, but what is our normal increase that we stay in line? $25. I forget how we come up with the determination.
I know how I came up with it. I raised everything by the CPI that we used.
Okay, all right.
It's 2.6%, and I just rounded it. I think it worked out to like 422 or something.
Yeah.
I rounded it up to 4. So the income, it took me 31,000, increased it by 2.6%, I rounded it up to the nearest thousand.
Thank you. Councilor Longmire?
I'm just thinking if I need to ask. No, I think we'll ask. Yeah, all good.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Oh. Close. Okay, you're under the wire.
Just a comment. You know, I'm so glad that we do this in light of what's happening provincially. You know, it's so important that we're trying to find a way to give relief. You know, and I know we can't do it all, but every little bit, you know, helps. And so I hope that, although it's not, you know, you don't want to say that you're glad it will cover more people. I am glad it will cover more people. I just hope they come forward so that they can benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? All in favor, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no? Motion carries. Thank you. We are moving on to page 21. The information report that is presented by Madam Hudson. Okay, Ms. Eula.
Tax exemption and deduction. That is for the wage tax, tax exempt value for the organization. Staff is recommending that the
of them are certain that's why we put the question. Before we get into adding anything else. What typically happens lots of times too is that there's lots of municipalities will not provide 100% exemption. You absolutely will if they're a charitable status or certain nonprofits, but there's lots of them that, maybe you give them an exemption from commercial to residential, or a partial exemption depending on what the nature of the organization is.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right then, so we'll thank you very much for the information and we'll move on. We are on 23, which is also staff report for the guarantees for the Valley Regional Solid Waste. Do we have a recommendation on that needs to be put on the floor? Councilperson Salzman?
I move that municipal council approve the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority guarantee resolution in the amount of $89,961 to replace the guarantee for capital projects completed in 2025-2026 from the prior year's budget that expired.
Thank you. I need a second here. Councilor Ronmeyer. Okay, and we have Mr. Will that will give us a brief overview.
So Valley Waste is a municipal enterprise. And through the MGA, they are not allowed to borrow money without the partners guaranteeing their debt. Somehow, over 25-26, they missed renewing their temporary borrowing resolution, which automatically voids the guarantee because it's tied to that conversion ordinance. So this is basically a formality that we need to approve in order for them to participate in the borrowing, guaranteeing our portion of $89,000.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed, no. We are on page 36. And it is the Bridgetown
Municipal Council authorize the required pre-approval form for venture MFC 31A1 for refinancing the upcoming balloon payment for the Bridgetown Water Utility to participate in the Finance and Treasury Board's upcoming spring debenture offering.
Thank you. Seconder, Councilor Cranton. Okay. Mr. Wills?
So, as previously mentioned, all those reasons apply to this as well. When it comes to this particular debenture, at the time when the Municipal Finance Corporation was around, the maximum term you could get without a balloon payment was 15 years. Bridgetown had borrowed for 20 years, requiring us to do a balloon payment to continue the payment for the next 5 years. The reason why I'm doing 2 separate pre-approvals is when the paperwork is done for the spring debenture, I want to be able to give them the actual voided check from the Bridgetown Water Utility capital, so the money's coming directly from there rather than coming out of the capital. Because generally what happens is they will withdraw all the payments out of the one fund, and then we got to transfer money over. I really prefer to do it if this is Bridgetown's debt, come out of the Bridgetown account. And that's the reason why there's 2 separate pre-approvals. So essentially, it's the same thing, it's just the fact that we need it in order to participate in that spring debenture.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Wills? Councilor Longmire?
Just for clarity, so in no way will this refinancing affect the water utility rates in Bridgetown? No part of that will affect the
It
person?
shouldn't, because if it was included in the last rate study, that would have been for 20 years.
Okay,
Okay, so the principal payment would have been figured out for 20 years. The only thing that will vary will be the interest,
okay,
because we're not going to get the same rates we had 15 years ago.
great. Perfect,
And
thank
so
you
if
for that.
it affects it, it would be very minimal.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Thank you. We'll move on to page 39. We have a motion for policy 114. Who would like to, Councilor Welch?
I move that municipal council provide 7-day notice to the amendments to the council remuneration policy 114 as presented at the March 10th, 2026 Committee of the Whole and provided in the attached staff report.
Thank you very much. Seconder. Councilor Hare? Yes? I thought so. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Cross.
Thank you, Warden, for you. So every year, as you know, we update the council remuneration policy, mainly just update the numbers so that the salary for councilors and warden and deputy warden are included in that policy. I think it probably used to happen a bit earlier in the year, but again, as we've changed so that it comes into effect April 1, we're trying to make sure that we do it in March, just before that. So that's the main reason. But the other thing that, when I went through the policy, that I just had questions about, and I just talked to Warden, Deputy Warden about this, and that's related to the additional funds that get provided for those that are ineligible for the pension plan, the public provincial pension. So I had some concerns with the way it's written in the policy, and I just wanted to point that out to you, which is why I've recommended the change. So first of all, the MGA provides direction on setting the annual remuneration for all council postings. So basically it says you set a number, that's what the councillor receives, or the warden or deputy warden receives. The guidance in the MGA is that an annual amount be set for that position, not that you can set a number for some people and a different number for other people apart from the positions that are included. So I do think that probably means that this policy is offside the MGA in my opinion, the way that it's structured. The other issue with the wording in the policy is kind of the function of the timing of whether or not you decide to join the PPS or not. In that if you don't decide to join, the way the policy reads is that when you reach a certain age, then you would receive that additional 8 points, automatically, which seems a bit counterintuitive. Or if you read it the other way, then if you are receiving the funds from the pension and then you become a certain age, do you continue to get it because you were eligible for the pension? So you can read it that when you reach that certain age, you're not eligible, and you only get the additional contribution. So with that, that's the recommendation.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment on the 2.6% cost of the CPI increase. I know it's all the time complaining about the public hall, we're sitting here giving ourselves raises. And I just want to say, I support the CPI increase. My hope is maybe 8 years, 10 years down the road, we're not increasing for CPI, but the council 10 years from now doesn't put a huge increase in the budget for it.
Not giving ourselves a raise, it's just indexing the current level, so that, right now it's our salary, it's also the salary for the next council and future council members, so that's what we're doing, so that's why I support the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councilor Weinmeier and Deputy Ward.
Thank you. Again, it was said, excellent, Councilor Hare, and as well, Councilor Crenton expanded on it again. This is always something that's real sensitive, because it does appear like it looks like a raise, but it's not. And we would acting poorly not to recognize the language and explain it so that people do understand the argument.
So basically, just wanted to point out that I am happy with the policy that matches our staff. I would never believe that
So normally, this, of course, we would send to the position improvement committee.
Yeah.
And this one's a little bit different because it's not directly position improvement, but it's certainly related. So we did receive this letter late in February, which is why we're bringing it to you now, as opposed to sending it to the committee. The recommendation is that because we haven't used anything out of that position improvement budget line this year, that you could, the council approves and use that line to provide this funding, which is a very long, so we talked about this all when you have to,
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add to this one? Just on this one, Director Wills and I had a bit of a discussion with this when we were looking at budget. What our discussion on the position, it's really good that you have some funds there for position recruitment, but what we would likely recommend is that you build a reserve so that $30,000, remember that's all in the budget, that you build a reserve of $30,000 so that we don't have to budget for it. What we do when we budget $30,000, we can't use it for anything else. So this year, I mean, if you decide to approve this, you take $5,000 out of it. Next year, we'll put $30,000 in the budget again, but what we'll do is say that if that's not used, then we'll put it in the reserve. And then if nobody else uses it, then the next year.
I mean, excellent. Dr. Strickland cannot do the work. They're practically carrying this magnificent sweater. And so,
drive through their own house, go up to the Morton, and have this back. Every time somebody wants to back. So, if we're gonna use, let's make a decision and stick with it. Put that decision instead of up there, instead of going in our back. And are we gonna get back our money that we got into it? I'm sure we do. But why are we hanging on to it, letting the buildings go downhill and have nothing to sell versus maybe somebody that has business with buy? I just, going back and forth doesn't work. Over the years, we live in the community, we talk to the people that work there. We listen to the people that work there that we don't even maybe respond to. We already know that some of them says, we're not moving out of Bridgetown. We're not going up there. I'll retire before I'll move up there. They're the stories we hear on the street. And we're here trying to make a decision what to do for our town. And I find it very frustrating that 2 years in, that's against yourself. Better solve the same stories in the environmental transportation. There's a sunken cement foundation there that could be built. I mean, if I was running, I'd want to be up there because that is 150% a better facility than Georgetown Water. But if we're going to make a decision, let's make a decision and try to get on with it. This to me is just back and forth, we're delaying it, we're gonna hear, we see all the impacts it's gonna cause if they move up there as far as the traveling and the snow removal, take 10 minutes extra to get to Bridgetown. Well, I'm sure 10 minutes isn't gonna make a heck of a lot of difference in snow removal. And like I say, to me, the bus thing is not an issue. The bus, there's all kinds of commercial areas in Bridgetown that transit can go see them and go put in the fuel tank and putting their buses out. But I was just kind of disappointed that 2 years in, all of a sudden we're putting a hold on things, we can't make a decision to go forward. It's pretty sad.
Thank you. Yes, you may.
Thanks. So through you to the counselor, so this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to make good, informed decisions. I don't believe you had all the information when council made the decision in the first place. So this is what this is trying to address. We want to know that whatever the decision is, whether it's West Paradise or improving Bridgetown facility, that it's based on everything you need to know. You were told that it would cost $400,000 to renovate the building that's there. It came in $150,000 more than that, but didn't include all of these other things that we need to consider. So if it's $1 million, and I'm not saying it is, even if it's an extra $100,000 a year, you as council needs to know that, which is exactly what the director is looking at, so that we can go back to you and say, here's all of the information, let's make a decision and proceed with whatever that decision is.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming anybody here. I'm just saying that we're 2 years into it. And that facility up there, I'm not saying it's being neglected, but there was a house there at one time that was sellable. It isn't. So we've lost $200,000 or $300,000 in somebody wanting a decent house in the property. So I mean, every year we go by, that coverall's gonna get to be aged. The building's gonna be aged. You're talking about roofs and heating systems and stuff like that. Every year goes by, it just gets worse because we couldn't come up with a decent plan to go forward, and that's the frustration of it is, I guess, is that if we weren't gonna use it, we should have sold it. Because what else are we gonna use it for?
if it's gonna be a boneyard, it's an expensive boneyard. You know, so if we're gonna repair the Bridgetown site, and that's my frustration too, is that 2 years ago, we did a tour of the Bridgetown site, and the public works people told us then they won't use the bathroom. So for 2 years, and I thought I saw a porta potty out there one time, outside the building, and I mean, industry, like I said, would have bought a mobile office with a lunchroom and a bathroom in it, at least to make it livable. And that's private industry. And yet, we're still sitting there in that dome, trying to figure out what way to go forward. And just being in the industry frustrates me, because when they tell me, oh, well, it's gonna take 10 minutes longer to drive that loader from that up there to there, don't use that for an excuse. Because every other person that does snow removal has to leave somewheres. No matter if they're doing private driveways, they have to leave their house. It isn't that they jump out of the garage and into their vehicle and push snow 2 seconds out the road. So that's the frustration with me, is that we've gone 2 years and our wheels are still spinning. But hopefully,
Well, thank you.
when we get all the new info, we will make a decision.
Thank you very much, Councilor Collins, for your comments. And it does say at the bottom of page 48 that staff are actively working and will complete the cost analysis by May 2026. So, and they are looking at it, but as you can see, I feel your frustration. We'll move on to Councilor Cotw.
This was a good conversation, so thank you. And thank you to CO for the explanation. I appreciate making sure we have the right information to make our decision. Even if it's delaying things a little, it would be just as frustrating if we had moved forward with a decision and then had information that made us regret it, I guess. For the most part, I support the argument to proceed with the upgrade in the facility. I worked in the town of Bridgetown however many years ago, 20 years ago, and the facility was, I'm guessing, not much better shape than it is now at the time. So I definitely see the need to change it. My concern, and I asked this last year during the capital budget, and different players have changed, is as it relates to the Granville Ferry site. And I remember asking a question because I was concerned about when I was on the election campaign, rumors of the Granville Ferry site closing, and the director last year said that that was not part of the plan, that the plans for West Dalhousie was only as an alternative for Bridgetown. But when I read parts of this report, it hints at Granville Ferry sites would be deemed surplus, and then later talks about decommissioning Granville Ferry. So I'm just a little concerned. Is the plan to relocate Bridgetown, or is it to relocate Bridgetown and Granville Ferry?
So in March, I guess 2024, when this was presented to council, the decision at that time was to move everybody, both Granville Ferry and Bridgetown, to West Paradise, and then decommission both Bridgetown and Granville Ferry.
That was the plan. That's been changed. So, thank you, Councilor Cranston.
Yep.
Deputy Warden.
Thank you. So, I agree with a lot of what Councillor Connell already stated. We have been sitting on this, and I've mentioned many times to the new CAO about this topic. I'm just kind of disappointed that we're continuing to get information from various projects that we never got the full information, and now we're trying to correct it, which I have to say I'm glad that we're correcting things, and I'm glad that we now have
the right people in the right positions, and we're moving the county forward. It's just disappointing that it's another and another. But yes, so the Bridgetown Public Works facility is definitely needs some type of TLC. And the fact that we have been pushing this for years is a bad mistake on our end. However, in 2024, when this was presented to us, I was supportive of it in the justification of centralizing all of our services for Public Works in one central location to the municipality. Because the 201 really stretches from one side of our county to the other. And the story that was presented to us was very good, very leading, very fact-driven. And we had a facility that really wasn't being used, and we made the decision that time to move forward with it. However, as time progressed, last year when we did our thing for budget, I remember that conversation because I argued with the director at the time, saying that no, this was not just for Bridgetown, it was originally for all of it. And now, and when did it change? And there was no answer given. So, we just continue to get different narratives time and time again. Personally, I would just wish that we made a decision and went with it. And I would prefer that we just sell that site, subdivide it, because there's some areas that we don't want to sell, which was one of the reasons why we bought it in some ways. But the areas that we could subdivide, to sell it, to see if we could still make a profit and utilize and refurbish the site that we currently have, makes sense. But I'm interested to find out what all the numbers are before I commit my vote to anything. It's just frustrating that we have been neglecting things, but I'm trying to stay positive that we have the right people, the right places to make the right decisions. And, I have faith in our staff to come with the right recommendation. But it is frustrating that we've been dealing with this for over 2 years. And we are in some ways going backwards, but at least the going backwards is to try to find the right path for the financial sustainability of our municipality and to support our employees. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Longmire.
Thank you, Warden. Great points already put out there. We haven't always been given the full packages. Information sharing was a concern. And so I look at this as I am actually pleased that we didn't go forward. Because if we didn't have a real in-depth cost analysis and we didn't itemize out all these, mine down into all the details that we really need to know more about, then we would have spent it poorly. So I'm, on one side, yes, I'm frustrated that we didn't move ahead and we had a 2 years delay. But when it comes to spending people's money, I think we do due diligence and make sure that we do the right analysis. And I love the language, actively working on it and looking forward to May 2026 for a report so that we can make a better informed decision. In 2024, I believe it was 2024, June or July, that flood. So it goes back to a statement that the Deputy Warden made. We had a flood that we had to close off Granville Road, and it was aggressive water coming down the North Mountain, and it was going over both roads and into the Annapolis River. If you had to look at a response time, and we've already come through the Long Lake fire, we know what response times look like, and we know where we have to go and gather our resources from. I'm not so sure I would want Granville Ferry to be up there in West Paradise and needing to respond to somewhere more remotely down at this end. Response time does matter. We know that with EHS, we know that with fire, we know it with everything, including our public works. Pauses are not always a bad thing, right? gives us time and space to make the right decision. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Upton.
I'm gonna pass. All my comments have already been made.
I hear what you're saying. Thank you very much. Councillor Hare and then Councillor Cranton.
Just a quick question. I see under other considerations, Tidal Transit uses bus storage, so it's spoken. Is the onus on us to provide bus storage, or is it up to Tidal Transit to find their own storage?
That's a good question. I don't, through you, Warden, I'm not 100% sure, Counselor. I believe that it's been, that we've allowed it because it's there type thing.
Yes.
So I don't believe it's our responsibility by any means. I think it's just been that we've had the facility there and it works for them. So it's been allowed, so I don't believe that it is our responsibility, but I will double check that.
And I'm not concerned currently if the buses, it's whatever, but I mean, if it comes to the, in the future, I would not want us to spend a whole whack of money to store buses if it's not our responsibility in the agreement we signed. That's it.
Thank you very much. But as you say, it's always been there. Because I think it was easier and right central. Okay, Councillor Cranton.
Yeah, just obviously staff is preparing more information to bring back to revisit, and just my request would be that information related to the Granville Ferry site be included as part of that, and part of the revisitation be that if you did move ahead with the West Paradise, that perhaps it's Bridgetown that is relocated and just Bridgetown.
All right.
For revisitation anyway.
Oh, sorry.
To be revisited. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Well, thank you, Madame Bromley, and I know that you've started a good process of looking at every step that you do, and you're going to be very diligent on how you present all these numbers. Thank you, Council, for such a great debate, well, not a debate, or a discussion, so therefore it helps to evaluate what we're going to go forward with. Okay, so I think we have done that session for information. You have asked all your questions, we'll move on. We'll go to page 50. There's a staff report there.
We got an addition on this, 5.12.
Well, we're at
We have
511.
5.11.
We're on page 50.
Oh, yeah, we're paving.
50.
Paving.
We need to do this one too. Okay, we have a motion to put on the floor. Councillor Welch.
I move that council of the municipality of the county of Annapolis submit municipal paving priorities containing a 0.6 kilometer portion of Church Street and a 0.9 kilometer portion of Granville Street for repaving under the 5-year Trunks and Roots Provincial Repaving Program at an estimated cost of $1.5 million.
Thank you. I need a seconder for the motion. Councillor Oxley. Okay, so we have Madame Bromley there for questions. I'm sure you would like to do a little brief overview. We have a map she has prepared for us to look at.
Yep, so this is just, I guess, through the Trunks and Roots program, it's just the 0.6 kilometer section of Church Street. So that would start at Granville Street and head north. And then the other section is Granville Street from the west end towards Jubilee Park, will be that section.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Hare.
Just for my information, I see my emails quite frequently, it seems, of water main breaks. And I'm just curious, if we put down a whole bunch of new paving, are we going to be ripping some of it up for water main breaks in the future. It'd kind of be a shame to put in a whole bunch of new road and then be ripping it up again.
This is the section that we're anticipating we'll do the water and sewer on next year. So we wouldn't do this asphalt unless we progress with that project to do that section.
It's the same question.
And then this will be fine with the repaving of that section.
Right on. So that applies to both, or
Well, Church Street, there's no infrastructure.
no infrastructure? Okay.
Are you done, Councillor?
Yep.
Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. That was my question, was to talk about the infrastructure, knowing how, the crisis that we're facing almost on a weekly basis with those water main breaks. I would certainly not want to see us go ahead with just paving and not do the others. So I'm glad that you expanded on that. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Perfect. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I had the exact same question. We
Because we all want it done.
went through this because I was very concerned and confused. Because I know that whenever we have a discussion about Bridgetown, it's heated as it is. So I was confused about why we were going to pave and then tear it up and then ask. So I'm glad that you were able to explain that. But my understanding also is that the money that we would usually tap into for these types of capital projects, a good portion of that has been reduced in the proposed provincial budget. So the fact that our Director of Public Works is trying to think outside the box to try to find funding for a project that we really can't continue in some ways to put off, at least in this section here, because, as you're seeing it every day, we're having water main. Because soon we'll have a gravel Granville Street.
That's right.
At some point. The only thing that really bothers me the most, besides the cost of everything, yes, but Church Street.
Church Street, yes. Thank you.
So, yes, when the town was a town, that was repaved once. And unfortunately, with the funding, they didn't do certain things. And it's something that the road was always in bad shape as it was. But the continued use of heavy equipment during the building of Mountain Lee sped this up astronomically, where, it even had more effects on water main breaks, where before the construction of the new Mountain Lee, we very rarely had water main leaks on Church Street, other than at the corner of Church and Granville, that pothole that we continually fill because there's something there. But now that it's been being used for industrial traffic for over 2 years, it is getting bad. And I mentioned on Thursday that there was supposed to be an agreement that during the construction of Mountain Lee, the developer or construction firm or whatever was responsible for repairing all the potholes related to the traffic on that road. And they were, for a short period of time, doing that. Dexter's was looking after it. However, kind of fell off the rails, and when they kind of stopped doing it, which shouldn't have been the case. Like now, they should be looking, the project is still ongoing. But there was also an agreement, but I can't find it anywhere, because it probably didn't exist on paper, as we found out time and time again, that there's been agreements, a gentleman's agreement, handshake agreement, I guess I'll say, that when the construction of Mountain Lee was completed, that as part of that project and the acknowledgement of the amount of wear and tear on that road,
the province was going to repave that whole section. That's why they were only doing the temporary patching during construction. But I can't find a paper trail in my email, and I know I asked the CAO if they could do that, and they couldn't find certain things. But that is the disappointing portion of that, where they already acknowledged that they've ruined the road by saying, oh, we're gonna patch it, and not following through on all that. That now that they should be involved in the repaving like they said they were going to. Now, with the provincial finances the way that it is and everything being cut, it's gonna be a tough sell, but there's no way that they can deny that construction did not have an effect on that road. And the fact that they already admitted that it did, and that they were gonna fill the potholes, which they did for a period of time, then I don't know what we can do if there's something, but it's just, I don't like the fact that we're gonna pay for something that we probably could have waited X amount of years to then look at. And, but now, with the state, I don't know if anyone's driven on Church Street in the past week. It's like driving on a cheese grater at best. Yeah. I know that, you know, when we talk about Bridgetown, it sounds like we're getting stuff all the time. Yeah, sometimes, yes. But this Church Street road is just, it bothers me the most out of all of it. But I'm thankful that our director is looking at other funding avenues. That way it's not all on our taxpayers to pay for different projects through the province, throughout our county that the province would usually help fund. Because those days looks like they're gone, unfortunately. So I'll end on that.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Councillor Connell.
My fear is that we're tying all rights up two streets in Bridgetown. If you put a car counter across the highway on Church Street, and you put a car counter across the highway by Spurs up in Wilmont, you'll find that the traffic count would be quadruple the amount of vehicles that go up that number one highway versus Church Street. So when you look at priorities, my biggest concern is, again, we can put those two streets in for provincial assistance on sharing the cost. But if we don't get the funding this year to do the sewer and water, then next year we're gonna put the same road on funding, and we're gonna stop doing anything else in our county. But the fact is, we wanna do two streets in Bridgetown. So how many years do we continuously try to get funding and neglect the rest of our roads? Because if we're gonna start cost sharing, which last year, or not last year, 2 years ago was the first time this county ever participated in doing a road that wasn't ours. And that was by Gary Ann's place. Before then, we never did any roads that belonged to the provincial government. We only cost shared in our subdivision roads, which was passed to us. So all of a sudden, now we're in a cost share program with trunks and routes. And when we look at trunks and routes across our county, I just feel that I'm not against doing, if we can get the funding to do the infrastructure on Granville Street, I'm not against paving it. But I'm surely against holding every other road in our county handcuffed until we get the funding to do that. We may not get enough funding to do the infrastructure this year, but we've tied our hands to not to do any other roads. So all of a sudden, our number one highway from Middleton to Kingston is deplorable. And like I said, if you put a car counter on it, you'll see how much traffic is outweighed by going up the number one than it is Church Street. And I feel bad for Dustin having to beat his vehicle up and down Church Street.
I just take the other route.
But we have got an issue on the number one highway from Middleton to King County line. And it's been on the provincial job site for 2 different terms, and every time it goes on, then they pull it off.
Back on.
And I've seen it over the years happen many times because it's who's supporting the area politically gets the asphalt. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, because we got a lot of asphalt when Steve McNeil was in. But I always used the classification as painted. They didn't resurface, they didn't do a resurface of the road, they painted it. 2 years. You got exactly what you had prior.
Yeah.
No good to put a 2-inch lift on a road that's beat to death in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my concern is that I'm not against, but we're holding our hands tied on doing any other projects until we find out if we can get approval for infrastructure. Because I agree, it's no good to pave it unless you're gonna put your infrastructure in. But I mean, we notice it because we get the emails that Bridgetown has another water main break. Middleton has the same issues. Middleton has just as many water breaks as Bridgetown. Because the infrastructure in the towns are beyond their time. Just because we don't own or don't represent the town of Middleton, we hear about Bridgetown, but we never hear about all the potholes and the cutouts in Middleton either, so it is. But that's my concern is that I'm not against, because those 2 roads need it. But every year, and it looks like we haven't got 100% security on going forward with the infrastructure this year yet. And like I say, all of a sudden, if we don't get it, we're gonna reapply for, assuming for federal provincial costs next year. And then we'll tie up next year money just to hold on the Granville Road. Why are other roads in our county areas being neglected, that's all.
Thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Hardy?
Yeah, so I can speak to this a little bit because I drive that road every day in the bus. Every day, and it is rough. Like Councilor Henslow says, that's on my bus route. So that's in rough shape. That's the worst road that I drive on, for sure, it's in rough shape. So I'm just wondering, it seems to me like the Granville Street, where it's a main route, would, probably qualify for the funding, the 50% funding, no problem. And I kind of see on here, Church Street, we're hopeful that it'll qualify for 50% funding. So, and it's gonna be sort of a what-if situation. So I'm curious, what's our path forward if we don't receive any provincial funding for that road, to help with the repaving of that road? Is it just gonna have to be left by the wayside, or is that something that we're gonna have to be looking at funding the full amount of? Just wondering if there's any clarity on that from
So
staff.
26, 27 capital, we did have some money allocated for Church Street. And that'll take us, say from the intersection of Granville past McKenna Street. So that worst
Where
section.
that bend is.
Yeah, so that worst section, we do have money in capital for this year to do some of that. If we get this funding, we'll be able to do more. That's all really.
Okay, so there is still a plan to do a small section if nothing else?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hope we can get some provincial funding.
The kids won't be going up and down.
No seatbelts. No seatbelts.
Okay, Councillor Cranston?
Yeah, having driven through Bridgetown a lot, the gravel street, I think is an obvious priority just by the condition of it. And obviously, if we have plans for infrastructure upgrades, it makes sense to do them and then than repave. I would probably agree that that there is likely bigger priority roads than Church Street elsewhere in the county. But I do have an issue with, or here's my thing with Church Street. What the deputy warden said has a lot of merit. And under normal circumstances, probably it's not the priority, but I think given the nature of what has put it in the condition that it is, I think it warrants a conversation or some type of discussion, whether I don't know how far you'll get. But I worked in Bridgetown in 2006, 2010, and I believe that project was done in 2009 or 2010. It was part of the Canada Economic Action Plan under the federal government with a third. And what was interesting there is that, yes, the poor little municipality sometimes had to make things stretches, but in that particular case, a significant investment was made into that road, and that was not just a repatch, that was a dig down, strip down, dig down, and rebuild the road, replaced new water. Now, they maybe didn't make the investments in sewer that they should have, but that's for another discussion. But when I'm hearing about water breaks and all that, that was new water infrastructure invested less than 20 years ago. And that whole road was dug down and rebuilt, and I think some new storm sewer was invested. So a significant amount of infrastructure is less than 20 years old, and that was probably at one point the best road in that community. So, you know, for those reasons, I think what the deputy warden is saying is it is merit, because it without question has to be from the construction, and you know, they've essentially destroyed that road as a result of that construction, because it wasn't just a repave, that was a rebuild, dig down and rebuild. So anyway, just my thoughts.
Thank you for that information. Councillor Longmire, for your second time, you have something to add?
Just that, I just didn't want it to go that we don't focus on Dexter's and their responsibility. There should be something somewhere, and it is definitely because of that activity on that street that you've seen that degrading of the road. So, you know, I wouldn't want them to, you know, not be at least had a conversation with, right? Right, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Warden, for your second time.
I just wanted to chime in, just to clarify that, because we all know that people watched it, that it's not that I'm not supportive of the new Mountain Leaf facility, because I am, 100%. I'm 100% on board, I'm glad, and I had the fortunate opportunity a couple weeks ago to get a tour of it. And if I had grandparents, I would be fighting to put them into that. So that's not the point. The point is around the damage to the road caused by the construction. And it's not for the fact of us not working with them, because multiple times we asked them to redirect the traffic up and then come down Englewood Road, which is a much better road that's been recently had improvements on. And we don't really have water and sewer that goes, there's water now that goes up that way. But my understanding is that water's not underneath the road from there. But they would not. And even the point when we had to close the road on Church Street when the Baptist church was on fire, the amount of outrage it caused with the contractor and developer, the fact that they actually had to go over and around, was just beyond. So I agree with Councillor Longmire. I'll get there. That you know, we do need to find a way, whether it's a conversation or so on. But I do think that that should be looked at as well, so.
Okay.
And for the comment around in front of Spurs on the number 1, that is horrible. And my understanding is that that road is on the docket. Even though they've said that multiple times.
That's right.
Now we'll see, hopefully it lasts and it stays on there, because I think it finally got the heat and lights from everybody. That hopefully it stays, and I hope it does. I hope that gets paid, because it's no worse than going to buy your cider, and then you leave, and then it's all shook up on your drive
Is that
home.
the song?
All shook up, yeah. So I'll leave it at that, but thank you, everyone.
Get on track here. Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Carroll.
Just real quick, on the comments of Dexter's, I'd be very careful at nipping at the heels of a private company to do road repair, because they do pay taxes as
Don't
well.
be nipping at province.
This is the province, yes. I wanted to make that clear, because it sounded like we were gonna nip at Dexter's heels.
No.
So, nope, just wanted to be clear on that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
So do we enter more than 2 roads to the provincial government?
So through you, Warden,
Yes.
to the councillor, so this is a very specific program. This is trunks and routes, so the only reason that we can do this is because Bridgetown was a town, and through dissolution, they will cover what they call trunks and routes that we now are responsible for. So this is these are the only spots that we can submit for this. We can through you might be thinking about the J-Class program, which is different again, or other programs that we can contribute to, but this is, for this particular recommendation, it's just for Bridgetown, is the only spot that we would have ability to use this.
But every year, if I may, if I remember, you could, Mr. Tony Harvey would ask what our priorities are.
We could put a list of areas in our county
Yes.
that maybe that's supported where the provincial government should be putting pavement in the county.
Sure.
Through their, they get a fund there to do the local roads
Yeah.
and stuff. But definitely, we should be supporting the number 100.
We've been talking about it for a few years now.
And also, we can't blame the water main breaks on Granville to the construction only.
Oh.
On Mountain Lee. I mean, we built up the sewer lagoon in Bridgetown, and trucks ran steady both directions, hauling both ways. Clay out, topsoil out, clay in, gravel in. I mean, there was a lot of traffic going in through Bridgetown with just that upgrade of that.
Exactly. Okay, are there any others who would like to add at this point that haven't spoken? Have been spoken. You wish to speak?
Please. I do want to be very careful, as we've, had a generous conversation here. Mountain and the Meadows has been mentioned. It is about Church Street. It is about the road and degradation. I do want that on, recorded because
That's what.
it's an asset. Yeah,
Councillor,
thank you.
And Councillor Deputy Wilkes.
Yeah, I'm reiterating. Thank you.
All right, on the motion. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Thank you very much, everybody, for the discussion. Okay, so that finishes that. We're moving on to the last one, which is the addition of, thank you, Madame Brown.
Sometimes do that.
On the addition of 5.12. You have it in your packet. Lake Pleasant Boat Launch.
I was looking for it.
All right, we have a recommendation, and I have a counter-pension.
I move that Committee of the Whole recommend that Council move $50,000 from the 2025-2026 operating budget account 9463 Park Strategic Initiatives to the operating reserve to be used in 2026-2027.
Thank Thank you. And seconder is Councillor Cotw. All right, and we have Monsieur Wills. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, so during your 25-26 budget deliberations, there was $50,000 that was added to the operating budget. Came to our attention, I think, in December that hasn't actually been spent on the Lake Pleasant boat launch upgrade. Excluding the weather today. It's just not possible that we're going to be able to get that done by the end of March. So we have a few options to get this project done. The cleanest option is what we're proposing, where the money's already been approved in the operating budget. We move it to a reserve, and then when the work is done in the new year, we would come back to council referring to this motion to transfer the money back, so it has no effect on the 26-27 operating budget. There are other options, but they get a little bit more clumsy because one, we could allow it just to fall to the bottom line. It would go to the operating reserve, but then we'd be coming back to council saying, hey, look, we didn't do this last year, we'd like to take money out of reserves, or you could say no. The other thing we could do is change our current operating budget, but we're just reapproving a project that's already been approved. So we're using this year's funds out of the general operating to actually fund the project under the dimension.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Councillor Cotw.
So because being the counselor of that area and not getting a very clear description on what the $50,000 was going to be spent on, is there a chance of getting some information on that, on what the plans are as far as what our new staff kind of looks at?
Yeah, that would come from the Director of Municipal Operations.
Right.
I'm sure she can provide something.
Yeah, I guess when we scope it, we can send it out for you to take a look at before we put it in the tender.
Just so we have an idea of what the money's being spent at.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Fenton?
Yeah, I thank the director for proposing this and recommending it. I trust his advice that it's the cleanest way of handling it. It certainly looks that way. And I also, as a counselor, like the fact that it's an operating item, but it's tied to a specific project. So it's not one of these deals where I saved money last year, so I automatically got more this year. You're just simply saying the project is, in essence, being moved, but the operating line is essentially staying the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden?
Thank you. I'll just be glad to see when the project's done. As a voter that uses and has used Lake Pleasant and camped there for 2 years, that it's definitely needed. And because right now, really the only other access is to go through 14 Lanes Campground, which not everyone can go through, and so on and so forth. So I'm glad that putting some heat and light and we're going to finish that project, or start and finish.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay. Under new business, we have FCM delegate selection. I think our deputy CAO is going to come up and speak on that.
I'll be brief. So policy AM 130, FCM delegate selection, provides for the attendance of the warden and up to 3 council members to attend the annual Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference and trade show when the conference is outside the maritime provinces. And we can also name 3 alternates in case the primary selection cannot attend. So this year's conference is scheduled for June 4th to 7th in Edmonton. Staff contacted all of council and asked for their interest and availability, and only 3 members of council were interested, so we didn't need to do a draw this year. So Warden LeBlanc and Councillor Oxner were selected to attend on behalf of Annapolis County. Deputy Warden Enslow would also like to attend. However, because he did attend last year, technically the policy doesn't allow him to. It allows you to go just once every 2 years. So given that we do budget for 4 attendees every year, we are suggesting that the deputy warden be permitted to attend and benefit from the valuable information he learns at the conference and bring it back to share with you.
All right. Are there any comments or questions? Councillor Connell?
So that's 2. Did you say there was 3?
It would be 3 if you agree with allowing deputy warden Enslow to attend. Yeah. So the warden was attending and Councillor Oxner.
Any other questions or comments that relate to Deputy Warden?
I just wanted to clarify why I put my name forward. So usually in the past, the way that it worked was the people that got nominated followed the criteria of the policy. But for alternates, if there was no other alternate that hasn't gone, we accepted alternates that have gone. So there's been other councillors that have done this. So when I put my name forward, it was, if no one else can go, and I would be interested in being an alternate. That's why I put it forward. Not because I wanted to go above anyone else, it's just no one else has the availability. So instead of being an alternate, I end up being more of a primary.
Any other questions or comments on this at all? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Madame. The next one is the Municipal Art Bank Program discussion. So I think I'm going to leave that one up to
That's fine.
you, Councillor Welch.
Thank you. I appreciate the CAO putting it on for discussion today. I've a little thing I'll read here first. Colleagues, Warden, CAO, over the years this council has demonstrated that we understand long-term asset building. We invest in infrastructure, we acquire land to protect environmental assets. We make deliberate decisions to shape growth rather than to simply react to it. We recognize that roads, water systems, and protected lands are assets that define our county for generations. What we have not traditionally done is think about culture in that same structured-based way, asset-based way. With recent provincial reductions in culture, arts, and tourism funding, municipalities are facing a choice. We can retreat and say culture is not our role, or we can ask whether there is a modest, fiscally responsible way to provide local stability and leadership. I'm not suggesting that we replace provincial funding. That's neither realistic or appropriate, but I'm suggesting that we consider whether a small, controlled initiative makes sense to us. The concept of a municipal art bank is straightforward. A capped annual allocation, modest in scale, potentially in the range of $500 to $7,500, used to acquire works from local artists through a transparent jury process. Over time, this builds a civic collection owned by the county and is displayed within our facilities. This is not grant spending that disappears, it's asset building. It's measured, it's scalable, and it's entirely within this council's control. Today, I'm not asking for approval of a program, I'm asking whether council would like staff to prepare a report outlining scope, governance, budget implications, and implementation considerations so that we can evaluate it properly. If we believe in shaping our county intentionally, then it is worth asking whether cultural assets deserve the same thoughtful approach as we applied to physical ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. At this point, if you would like to ask questions or have a little discussion, we can move to that. Councillor Hare?
I thought we talked about this one time before, and I think I liked the idea of it before. And I guess it's, I would support the idea of looking into it. I know, again, we just come out of budget and talked about trying to save money and then we're going to spend more money, but maybe there's just $500 to $7,500. Maybe there's room in the budget now that we could readjust something. I mean, in the grand scheme of however many millions I hope we'll be able to move some money around in the budget. Maybe out of something else, just decrease it by the set amount, because I do think we have a lot of very good artists in our county that I'm sure would love the recognition. So I would like to look into it, look into where the money would come from. Again, we got to be fiscally responsible about this, since money's going to, just try to avoid creating new spending if we can instead just move some money around. So it doesn't sound like we're trying to move $50,000 around, just trying to move $575. And as I said, given recent cuts, I do think it is, if we wanted to contribute, I think it's a good way to contribute. So, here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I have a list. Councillor Harding, and Cranton, and Deputy Warden, and Councillor Longmire. So, Cranton, or no, Councillor Harding.
Yeah, I'd be really supportive of something like this. I think we have a host of really great artists in our county, and we're really lucky to have that. And I think also, as Councillor Hare mentioned, given the current climate, with some of the provincial budget things going on, I would like to see something like this. I think it'd be a good direction for the county to take, at least get some information from staff and a report. I would like to see something like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cranton.
Yeah, I like the idea, and thank you to Councillor Welsh for preparing something on it. I remember when it was first brought up as just something to look into, so, and I liked the idea then, and that was before recent provincial changes. I liked it then, and I think it's even more important now, because if we don't preserve, there's a risk that nobody will, and I think it's a small request, and I think you can do a lot with it. Obviously, the indication maybe is you acquire some artifacts and pieces of art, but you never know. There may be people, if you have a good established few prominent locations, there may be donations as well. There may be some. Can't speak for every artist, but I would suspect that having a piece of your work displayed prominently at a prominent location in a local government building would be a nice treat. And then you get a tax receipt. So I support the idea of staff at least preparing the report. And I would just say, and I know staff cover all bases, just be mindful that that we also look into whatever the contents insurance obligation is, because it changes when it's a piece of art as opposed to just an item type of thing. So I don't think it's a huge expense, but it's just something else to look at as well. But
To be aware.
yeah, so bravo to Councillor Walsh for bringing it up, and I support looking into it.
Thank you. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I'd be interested to see what the report comes back with. There's just a couple questions I suppose will be answered within that is, when I think about arts and artistry, I think of more than just paintings, because we have a huge diverse population within Annapolis County that, that when we look at artistry, that we're looking at the whole picture and just not pictures on the wall. We have a lot of people that participate in arts across the board. So hopefully look at that aspect, as well as what we would actually do with them. Hopefully, if this is something that we move forward with, that we actually have a plan to do something with it and not just become a depository of art that's just sitting in places that really what makes sense to have, other than in 50 or 100 years saying, oh, what's behind that box? And then like, oh, well, they're Mona Lisa. Yeah, but,
That's next level.
well, hidden treasure. But, but there are other examples that we potentially could look at accomplishing this without having financial, where I think there's an example of other municipalities that have, they have a bigger facility than we have, because really we have 2 walls. And most of that's taken up by bulletin board. So we don't really have a whole lot of space, but that other municipalities have worked with different not-for-profit organizations or galleries where they have showcased them. That way when people come in, they see the art and you could potentially purchase it through the vendor or whatever. We see this in other, my dentist has that, for example, and other places have vendors that put stuff up to showcase what they do, and then you can potentially sell it. But I do think that there's a lot we can do with this, and even with this artistry, it can also be a magician where we support or recommend or say, maybe we can go see this person or whatever. I just don't want it to really be tied to like art itself, but generalize the arts. Because I do recognize that with the cuts that is currently being proposed, that everyone is being tapped, and the arts is definitely very important. And if we don't support the arts in some capacity, then there is a fear of things disappearing. But yeah, I'll be interested to see the report and see what we can do.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilor Longmire.
Thank you, a wonderful, thoughtful request. So thank you, Councilor Welsh. And basically everyone has already said what I wanted to say. I really appreciate Deputy Warden for using the word diverse, because we have a diverse art persons in this county. What a beautiful thing to showcase, or however it unfolds. But I really am interested in the information that'll come about as we dig down a little deeper in how we can or what we can do, right? So thank you for that, Councilor.
Thank you. Councilor Cotw.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I think there's going to be some challenges because I think we'll end up getting requests from past artists that are well-known artists in our county. So then you open up that door. What year do you start it? What year do you take artistry from? You start it fresh from day one, that's one thing. But once you take a well-known artist that did a certain thing and passed away, but their art is well-known, well then you're opening up that whole gauntlet of artists throughout our county. Because in Brickton, we had a whittler that his oxen and his horse teams are worth thousands, and the people that, if they're at an auction, they go miles to buy old Mr. Archie Gazanti's figures. And I know that there's people out there in search for him every day, for dogs or a person or anything he carved, because he was phenomenal. But we have phenomenal whittlers and sculptures. There's a gentleman over on the Cape Sand Beach Road that likely the county doesn't even know how much of an artist he is, because he sends artistry all over the world. I don't even think he's got anything in display in Annapolis County because he doesn't participate with us. But so we're very averse to. We at our restaurant, we have local artists. I mean, you come in our restaurant, and up until last year, we had paintings on the wall that was for sale by local artists. So it'd be interesting what comes back. I think supporting programs is definitely, and maybe trying to set up an area. The Middleton Museum has done it for years. Different artist goes in there and they advertise it. Their art's on display and stuff like that, but definitely with the cuts that's coming forward from the provincial government, it's probably gonna go down backwards instead of forward, so it'd be interesting to see what comes forward. But it is an excellent idea because we do have a lot of talent in Annapolis County-wide.
And when you put every level of art underneath there, it's just not one thing, and there's a lot of talent. Because I have a list of things here. Okay, any other comments? Okay, from what I can see, we kind of unanimously agree that it's to be sent to the staff to give us back a report. Correct? You unanimously
Yes.
unanimously agree? Yes?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so that's that for that one.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you.
You're quite welcome. Councillor Oxner. About discussion on the letter.
A letter. I'm sure all of you have been hearing, same as I have, the concerns with the cuts the provincial government is proposing in the budget. Our seniors, our persons with disabilities, our arts and entertainment, which impacts tourism, are all very important and relevant in this county. I think to demonstrate that we are listening to our residents and hearing what they are saying, we should have a letter drafted voicing our concerns sent to the province.
Let's have a few discussion on that. Deputy. Oh, yes.
So you're gonna say the same thing else?
Probably so. So, as you know, the budget discussions have been very intense. So even as of this morning, there's been some changes. So there was an announcement this morning that the Premier apparently did a presentation, so I'll just read you. So Nadine was watching this for us. This literally happened less than an hour ago.
14 minutes.
Yeah, I see that there.
So the province will reinstate 53.6 million grants and funding to support people with disabilities, seniors, and education initiatives for 26-27. The government is reinstating 21.4 million in grants to support seniors and people with disabilities and to help African Nova Scotians and Indigenous people access educational opportunities. Another 10 million will go back to organizations that support those groups. It is also re-establishing 22.2 million in funding to community programs that support seniors, disability groups in the African Nova Scotian and Indigenous communities. The deficit will now stand at 1.24 billion before contingency.
There it is.
There it is.
So.
Sounds like the voices are being heard.
Yes, yes. So at this point,
Yeah, if I may, I just, so, certainly get your point about writing the letter. At this point, because this is brand new,
Yes.
Yes.
it's hard to even say what that 53 or 22 or whatever means. Because we know that there was 130 going out the door, are being cut, and so we don't necessarily know what's being replaced. Now, certainly, if council wanted to add their voice, certainly we could do that, but it'll be hard to be very specific on what
Yes.
that is or isn't until. And again, I suspect that with these changes, this budget will get passed very quickly.
Okay.
so at this moment, we should possibly
I'll read,
hold
yeah.
and wait till we see what's
Yes.
going on. Do we all agree on that?
Yes.
Yes? All right. I had two people who wish to speak. Do you need to speak before?
Nope, because we're holding it now.
Do you,
The CAO said everything I was gonna say.
you don't need to speak?
If we're gonna hold it, yeah, then
Yes.
I'll just let it go.
Perfect. All right, I guess we are done with the discussion and the new business. All right, so we're at the in-camera. So I need a motion to go in camera in accordance with section 22A of the Municipal Government Act, acquisition, sale, release, and security of municipal property, and 22 to G, which is legal advice, legal advice eligible for solicitor-client privilege. I need somebody to put that motion on the floor, Councillor Oxner, and I need a seconder, which will be Carson Saltzman. And all in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion passed. Thank you very much.